Willow Creek estates looked like perfection. Neatly trimmed hedges, identical mailboxes, and silence so uniform it almost felt rehearsed. Every weekend, sprinklers hummed in rhythm, cars gleamed in driveways, and the HOA board patrolled the streets like quiet guardians of order. Mary Ann. Brooks thought she'd found peace here, a retired veteran, turned middle school teacher, seeking nothing but calm. She moved in with dreams of quiet mornings and laughter echoing through her small garden. But in neighborhoods, built on perfection, peace is fragile. One wrong color, one unapproved flowerbed, and you're the enemy. Mary Ann's first mistake wasn't rebellion. It was simply painting her door the wrong shade of green. Drop your location and comment. Let's see how far this story reaches around the world. Charles Denton, HOA president, retired banker, self-appointed guardian of the community's image. He was the kind of man who never smiled without purpose. He believed order was everything, and anyone who questioned him was chaos. When he saw Mary Ann's forest green door, he didn't see paint. He saw defiance. Within days, a letter arrived. Violation notice, non-compliant door color. Mary Ann read it twice, sighed, and placed it on her counter. She wasn't going to change her door. Not for him. Not for anyone. But Charles Denton didn't take no for an answer, especially not from a woman who refused to fear him. The next week, 2 more letters appeared. One for overgrown plants, another for unauthorized mailbox design. Mary Ann's plants were trimmed. Her mailbox was standard, but logic didn't matter in Charles's world. Only control did. She started to notice whispers. Neighbors who once waved now avoided eye contact. Her peace was quietly evaporating. Still, she refused to bend, but when the HOA fines began to stack up, Charles crossed from petty to personal, and Mary Ann began to record everything. Mary Ann set up cameras around her house. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Weeks later, she caught him. At 3 a.m., Charles Denton appeared on her footage, flashlight in hand, tearing down her no trespassing sign. She sent the video to the HOA board. They dismissed it as a misunderstanding. That was the night she called a lawyer. Charles didn't know it yet, but his war had already begun, and Mary Ann was far more dangerous than he could imagine. At the next HOA board meeting, Mary Ann sat quietly in the back. Charles led with his usual arrogance, announcing new standards for exterior decor. When he tried to address her directly, she met his gaze with calm certainty. "You're abusing your power, Charles." Gasps filled the room. No one ever spoke to him that way. End hook. From that moment on, Mary Ann Brooks wasn't just a homeowner, she was a threat, and Charles made it his mission to destroy her reputation. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. Someone claimed Mary Ann was unstable. Another said she yelled at the board, lies, whispered over fences, texted between neighbors. She stayed silent, documenting everything. The notes slipped under her door, the anonymous HOA emails, and the threats disguised as community notices. Each paper was a weapon in her growing arsenal and hook. And when the HOA crossed one final line, Mary Ann decided she'd had enough of playing defense. Mary Ann filed official complaints, not just with the HOA, but with the County Housing Authority. She also sent Charles a cease and desist letter through her attorney. The next morning, she found her garden vandalized. Tire tracks, broken planters. Security footage showed a familiar silhouette. Charles was unraveling, his control slipping with every desperate act. But what he did next, in front of her students, would destroy him completely. It was supposed to be a normal school day. Mary Ann was in her lab, guiding students through an experiment when Charles stormed in. His face was red, his voice trembling with rage. He accused her of publicly humiliating him and of ruining the community. His words slurred into threats. Then he grabbed her wrist. The room froze. Students gasped. But Mary Ann Brooks wasn't just a teacher. She was a soldier once, and that training was about to surface. With calm precision, she broke his grip, stepped back, and ordered the students out. Her movements were controlled, efficient, not violent, just commanding. Charles stumbled, shocked by her strength. Within minutes, the police were there. A student had filmed everything. By sunset, the video had gone viral. The HOA's king was exposed as a bully, not a leader, and while the internet erupted in outrage, Marianne stayed silent, letting the world do the talking for her. The fallout was swift. Charles was arrested, charged with assault and harassment. HOA members resigned one by one. Neighbors who once ignored Marianne began knocking on her door, apologizing, thanking her for standing up. The system that had ruled through fear collapsed in days. But Marianne's true victory wasn't in his downfall, it was in what came next. Spring. Returned to Willow Creek. Marianne repainted her fence, replanted her flowers, and finally reopened her garden gate. Children played nearby again. The air felt lighter, honest. A new HOA board was elected, one that listened instead of threatened. Marianne never bragged about her victory. She didn't have to. Her quiet dignity spoke louder than any headline. End hook. But months later, a letter would arrive that reminded her just how far her courage had reached. The letter came from a woman in another neighborhood, someone fighting her own HOA battle. She'd seen Marianne's story online and wanted to thank her. "You gave me courage," it read. "You showed me that silence can be strength." Marianne folded the letter, smiled, and looked out at her blooming garden. She knew peace wasn't given. It was earned, fought for in quiet ways by those who refused to bend to tyranny disguised as order, because in the end, bullies fall. But those who stand, they leave a legacy.